In 1994, Mark Henley was working night shifts at a small gas station when he found something that shouldn't have existed: a door hidden behind a row of shelves. The station was off Highway 56, just outside Emporia, the kind of place you only stopped if you were desperate. Half the lights flickered constantly, and the night clerk sat alone behind bulletproof glass, watching empty roads stretch into darkness. What happened there defies explanation, but I've seen the security logs. I've read the incident reports that were supposed to be destroyed. This isn't just another urban legend. Mark Henley was 34, divorced, working nights to pay child support. He was a quiet guy who spent slow hours sketching in a composition notebook, mostly drew the customers, the truckers, the insomniacs buying energy drinks at 3 a.m. His drawings were good, detailed. He had an artist's eye for things that didn't belong. The Sunoco station had been there since 1967, but something about it never felt right. Regular customers mentioned it in passing, how the building seemed longer on the inside than it appeared from outside, how the aisles felt like they shifted when you weren't looking, how your footsteps echoed differently in certain sections. But it was the sound that really got Mark's attention. It started in September, a rhythmic thumping from somewhere behind the stockroom. He assumed it was the old freezer unit acting up, or maybe something loose in the walls from the constant highway vibrations. But freezers don't knock in sets of 3.
October 12th, 1994. Mark's shift log shows he investigated the sound for the first time. Behind a shelf unit filled with motor oil and antifreeze, he found it. A door with no handle, sealed with rusted chains that looked decades old. No markings, no labels. Nothing in his employee handbook mentioned any door in that location. The knocking was coming from the other side. 3 deliberate raps, then silence, then 3 more. Mark called his manager the next morning. Dave Kowalski had worked for Sunoco for 15 years, knew every station in 3 counties. His response was telling. "That door? Don't worry about it, Mark. Been there forever. Just don't include it in your nightly walkthrough, okay?" But Mark was curious. He started timing the knocking, always between 2:17 and 2:23 a.m. Always the same pattern. 3 knocks, 47-second pause, 3 knocks. Like someone or something was being very, very patient. His sketches from this period show his mental state changing. What started as casual drawings of customers became obsessive studies of the stockroom layout. Page after page of doors, chains, corridors stretching into impossible distances. The lines grew darker, more frantic. Night after night, the sound grew louder. What started as gentle tapping became aggressive pounding. The chains rattled with each impact, and Mark swore he could feel the vibrations through the floor. November 3rd. A trucker complained about hearing someone screaming from the back of the store, but when Mark checked the security footage, the store was empty except for him and the customer. The timestamp showed the exact moment the trucker claimed to hear the screaming. On tape, there was only silence. November 15th, Mark brought a small tape recorder to work. The audio I obtained through unofficial channels is disturbing. Beneath the knocking, if you listen carefully and adjust the levels just right, you can hear voices. Dozens of them, all whispering the same thing. "Mark, Mark, let us out, Mark." November 23rd. Mark brought bolt cutters. The security tape from that night shows Mark cutting the last chain at exactly 2:17 a.m. The moment it fell away, the knocking stopped. Complete silence for the first time in weeks. The door swung open on its own.
Behind it was a hallway that shouldn't exist.
Endless fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in perfect rows, casting that sickly yellow glow that makes everything look diseased. The hallway stretched impossibly far, farther than the width of the building, farther than the entire block should have allowed. Miles of identical corridor vanishing into a distant point of flickering light. The walls were that specific shade of yellow beige that only exists in old office buildings and government facilities, stained with decades of moisture and something else Mark couldn't identify. The carpet was a worn, mold-spotted beige that squelched slightly under his feet, like it was perpetually damp. The air itself felt thick and stale, recycled through unseen vents for so long it had taken on that distinctive musty smell of places where no one was meant to live. It was the kind of space that felt infinitely empty and yet somehow watched. A liminal maze that existed between the cracks of reality where the normal rules of architecture and physics simply didn't apply. The last clear image shows Mark stepping inside, his notebook still clutched in his hand. Then, the door slammed shut. What the security camera couldn't capture was what Mark experienced in that hallway. We know because he left behind something corporate never found when they cleaned out his locker. His notebook. The final pages tell a story that shouldn't be possible. The writing starts normal, then becomes increasingly erratic. The lights never end. I've been walking for what feels like hours, but my watch still says 2:17. The voices are clearer now. They're not asking to get out anymore. They're welcoming me home. There are doors along the walls. Hundreds of them. Each one has a nameplate screwed above it like office doors. I can see mine at the end of the hallway, glowing under a fluorescent light that never flickers. I understand now. This isn't just a hallway. It's a collection. Every person who ever found a door like this, who got too curious, who couldn't leave well enough alone, we all end up here. Mark Henley, night shift, door 847. I can hear new knocking starting somewhere behind me. 3 raps, 47-second pause. Someone else found their door. Someone else is about to make the same mistake I did. If anyone finds this, tell them not to cut the chains. Tell them to walk away. Tell them that some doors aren't meant to be. The entry ends there. The handwriting trails off mid-sentence.
Mark never came home that morning. His ex-wife called the police when he missed picking up his daughter for their scheduled weekend visit. The official report states he abandoned his post sometime during the night shift. No foul play suspected. Case closed within a week. 3 weeks later, Sunoco Corporate demolished the station. Official reason? Structural instability. But I spoke to the demolition crew, and their story is different. They said the wrecking ball bounced off that back wall like it hit solid bedrock. Took them 2 days and high explosives to get through it. When they finally broke it open, they found a storage space about 4 feet deep. Just enough room for some old inventory and cleaning supplies. No door, no hallway, no chains. The security tapes disappeared from evidence. The case files were sealed, then lost in a clerical error. Mark's notebook should have gone to his family with his other possessions, but somehow it never made it into the official inventory. The demolition foreman kept one thing, though. A single brick from that back wall. He said it was warm to the touch when they pulled it out, and it stayed warm for months afterward, no matter the weather. He finally threw it away after his wife started complaining about knocking sounds coming from their basement at night. 3 raps. 47-second pause. 3 raps. That stretch of Highway 56 is just empty lot now.
Weeds grow through cracked asphalt where the gas station used to stand. No foundation, no sign a building was ever there. But locals know to avoid it after dark. GPS systems glitch near the spot, showing roads that don't exist and destinations that can't be found. Cell phones lose signal, and if you're unlucky enough to break down there at night, if you listen carefully while you're waiting for help, you can still hear it. Knocking. Urban explorers have reported seeing things in that empty loft that shouldn't be there. A faint outline of a building that's only visible in peripheral vision. The flicker of fluorescent lights somewhere underground. And always, always, the sound of voices calling names into the darkness. Last month, a teenager from town claimed he heard his name being whispered from beneath the asphalt. He posted about it online, said he was going back with equipment to investigate. He hasn't posted anything since. I'm telling you this story as a warning. Mark wasn't the first person to find an impossible door, and he won't be the last. They're everywhere. Hidden behind false walls, sealed in forgotten basements, tucked away in abandoned buildings. Places that exist in the spaces between spaces, collecting people who get too curious for their own good.
If you ever find a door that shouldn't be there, sealed with old chains and emanating that metallic smell that makes your eyes water, remember Mark Henley. Remember his notebook, his drawings, his final words scrawled in increasingly desperate handwriting. Remember that some doors aren't meant to keep things out. They're meant to keep things in. And if you hear knocking from the other side, if you hear voices calling your name through rusted metal and rotting wood, do yourself a favor. Walk away. Because once you cut those chains, once you see that impossible hallway stretching into fluorescent infinity, you become part of the collection. Another name on another door in another impossible space. And there's always room for one more. The knocking never stops. Even now, as I write this, I can hear it. 3 raps, 47-second pause. It's calling my name.